Oh, you're welcome. I need to fix the camera.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
You're left. Just down the west of me.
Not really.
We're good? Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to resume the public portion of this meeting at 8:01. I do sincerely apologize and appreciate all of your patience for the lengthy non-public. While in non-public, no votes were taken. We discussed a legal opinion and we discussed our contract negotiations. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip over the overview process and timeline. I had wanted to share some of the data that we had collected, and I'm happy to share that with anyone who will email them with an inquiry. It was presented earlier. I have the information. I wanted to just reshare it because there's some questions about it, but because this is going on so long, I'm going to skip over that. We had been asked to consider 2 additional options. So we're moving on to our hybrid model discussion. We had been asked to consider a 4-to-1 type of hybrid model that would have younger students in school for 4 days and home for 1 day, having older students fully remote. We're also asked to consider a fully remote option for all students. And I'm going to start with the fully remote option because if forum of the board votes to go fully remote, then the conversations about hybrid can be put off. In the interest of honoring the request, I'm going to make a motion for the board to direct the administrators to plan a fully remote option. I'll need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so that's Jessica Boudreau. And is there any conversation? I think we all understand how a fully remote option would likely work. Is there any conversation about particulars of how we could do things here that anybody would like to ask or share?
Yeah, so I do respect some advice we got from administration on this. But in my opinion, I feel the hybrid model was the best option that we had. My feeling is I'm going to vote no on full remote because I look at the long-term effects of our children not being in school, but I understand also the safety aspect of it for teachers and children as well. But I'm a person that thinks 5-10 years down in the future, it's the way I am. I like to plan stuff because the mental health of these kids not being in school 5 to 10 years from now is going to be huge. And you might be saying, hey, let's not worry about 5-10 years. Well, when your kid has a mental health crisis when he's older because he has no interaction with kids, then I'll be right. So I'm going to be voting no on all remote.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, can you guys hear me okay? I mean, I know you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I just wanted to say that there was a lot of work and detail put into looking at the 2-to-3 and 4-to-1 plans and trying to see what would work and what wouldn't. And, we just want to put staff and student safety as our top priority. And we also want to really focus on the social emotional health of our students too, whether we are hybrid or we are remote. There's been a lot of detail. We really are trying to consider like all the best options and all the pros and cons of the situation. So we appreciate your patience, and we know that we can't please everybody, but we definitely have gone through and really tried to identify what we can make work best.
Okay. Stephanie?
Yeah, I want to echo what Shirley was saying. We have worked extensively at looking at these 2 models, the 2 different hybrid models, other hybrid models, what that could look like, what those requirements are. I still support a hybrid model. I'm just not sure that we can do that at this time. So I will be voting for remote, but my expectation and hope is that we continue to look at ways to integrate children into the school as able for orientation meetings. for our special education services, trying to make those available to students. I would definitely like to look at champion childcare. If we're not going to have students in the building, what kind of childcare can we provide for those students who need it, Monday through Thursday or a Monday through Friday model? And I want to look at other opportunities to bring students into school during the remote model on a voluntary basis as able for some of those outside the box type activities for social, emotional, community building and wellness. This has been extremely tough. I think we've all lost a lot of sleep over it, looking at all these different models, and none of them are perfect. You literally look at one and it's like a Tetris game. It opens another issue and another issue and another issue. So my long story short, I will vote for the remote for now, with the expectation that we are also revisiting that. It will be an ongoing situation.
Okay, we've heard from the three here. Ms. Bujo, do you have any questions or comments or things you'd like to say before we take a vote on the remote option?
No, I just echo what Ms. Arroyo said, especially about ensuring that we continue to reevaluate as time goes on, looking at health data and looking at our regional numbers, especially so that we do, as Mr. Wells said, get our students back in and our teachers the support that they need to do it.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any questions or comments, so I'm just going to do a roll call if everybody's ready. Brian Winslow, I'm a no. Stephanie Arroyo.
Yes.
Shane Wells.
No.
Shirley Gillinen.
Yes.
Jessica Boudreau.
Yes.
Okay, so the vote passes for remote 3-2. Sorry, folks, this is hard. We're going to move on to talking about the sign. So Ms. Arroyo had some requests around this, so I'll let you bring up your concerns and then we have some information about it.
Yeah, so my concerns were, we voted back in March or whenever to implement the sign. The sign's still not in. My request was, where are we at with the sign? Have we paid for the sign? Is this something that we want to put on hold for a bit until we get through COVID? I don't know how that works. So we'd asked for some information about where we were at with the installation of the sign.
Okay, a little more background information. In April, the board voted to replace the sign up front, the one that was damaged, with an electronic sign. That was a 4-to-1 vote. The sign company has started, haven't broken ground, but I'll let Ms. Young explain what they have done and where we're at with them.
They've made some purchases regarding the electronic components of the sign, and then also done some scheduling for the groundwork, site work that needs to get done.
Okay, so there, I believe, I don't know if we have all of the details. There's a bit here about if we could scale back with what we're doing. Do you want to talk us through that a little bit, or do you?
Sure. So the existing sign definitely needs to be replaced to the point where it's really not repairable. So New Hampshire Sign had proposed that they continue with the site work and the installation of the frame of the sign, but put in a manual letterboard for now, which at a later date could be converted to an electronic panel for additional expense. And so instead of the $46,000 electronic sign, you would be looking at about a $14,450 manual sign.
Okay, and I believe as part of that price, we have an insurance rebate for, is it correct? It's $11,000?
I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about $3,000 replacement sign to our budget if we approve that to put the project on hold at this point. Roughly $3,450, I think. So are there any questions before we take a vote on this? Actually, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to probably make a motion that we approve this new plan. So I'm gonna make a motion to authorize Ms. Young to work with New Hampshire Signs on the plan that's described in this paper for the letter sign rather than the electronic sign. and I'm gonna need a second if we're gonna talk about it. Okay, so Shirley is the second on that. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or comments?
Yeah, I got two concerns, questions, I guess. So the state that we're in right now and not having a superintendent, and I know Mr. Riding, you're here, as the acting, well, I don't even know what your role is, helping us out, let's say that. I just feel this decision right now, if, I get it, we're gonna save money, we need money, but I haven't seen any budgets. I don't know where we are at budget wise with adding the LNA, the medic, the med tech, adding additional custodial. I'd like to see those numbers first before I can make a decision on this. To know the saying, yeah, okay, we're saving $43,000, which is, if I do the math right, and we could put that towards the custodial or whoever we need fit. But I'd like to see that data first before I can make a decision. I know how the board feels on that. And I just don't like making decisions without some kind of data or sort of information about why are we making a decision. I got the concept of it, but
yeah. So you need to remember that you are in the beginning part of your budget year. So there are going to be way too many moving parts for you to determine what you have in your budget. You've got new hires. You've been provided the information on the cost of the hires. Of course, that information won't go into your expense report until we make the hires. But the other piece is, I'm pretty sure that the sign was coming out of a reserve account.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have a tie into your operating budget right now. Now, that being said, depending on which reserve account, you have a maintenance account and you have a grounds and maintenance account. For instance, if there was a need to upgrade the HVAC system, if that became apparent, and you went for the lesser price sign, that's going to open up money in your reserve account in case you need to do some sort of HVAC upgrade. So I know that just probably confuses the board's decision a little more. But as far as an expense report in August with any sense of accuracy for you to project what's going to be left in the budget is pretty impossible this early in the year.
And also, Mr. Redding, Stephanie has brought up a great point too, that because we're going remote, there is going to be extra money, the fact that we don't need a med tech or a custodial staff because immediately. So again, I get it. We're not going to really know the budget wise, and I forgot that it was out of the reserve fund. And you bring a great point about the HVAC system, and I'm not aware of it being too out of date, or if it's out of date, or if it needs to be replaced. But I'd like to look into that as well.
Yeah, I think Miss Young had an I think she was going to have an air quality study done, and airflow. So it wouldn't be replacing your HVAC system. It would be potentially adding some components like ionic light, if possible, to kill any particular matter, including viruses and bacteria, and things like that. So I think she's sort of working on that. So if that helps with your clarify your.
It does. I mean, there's a lot of like moving pieces right now. So as I recommend to the board that we put this decision on a hold until we wrap our head around this whole remote going, because we said hybrid, now we're going remote, and there's going to be all these different moving pieces. Hiring, not hiring, need money here, put money there. So I would just ask the board to hold off on this decision until we have more information.
I just wanted to ask for clarification on one thing, because there is a note about storing the sign. So if we're changing or making a decision, are we going to be paying a storage fee monthly? If we're holding off on It's in the bold on the front page. Right there. I just want to make sure we're not cutting costs that we don't need to.
The other long range consideration that you might, and I don't know what the answer to this, Jocelyn may know the answer to this, is that so you have a base built, you have a lettered sign put in, then eventually you switch out for the sign you chose. What is the increased cost of that transition? You know, putting a letter sign in and then switching to the other sign. That's another consideration that the board might want to think about.
I don't know the answer
Okay.
to that.
Just to give some other information, the fund that this was approved to come out of is the Building and Grounds Capital Reserve Fund. I can read the description of it, but that's what it was. For folks, if you remember in March on the ballot, it was Article 6 was adding money into that fund. That was, what was the exact term for it?
Was it 95? How many?
One-time grant
Yeah.
of fiscal disparity, which came from the state, and the town approved $99,563 to go into the Building and Grounds Capital Reserve Fund, and that's where we were intending to take money from for the sign. So,
And then you had another $20,000 already in that account, roughly. So
okay. Shane had suggested that if we could table this for more information, is that still a suggestion you'd like to pursue? Do you believe, Ms. Young, that we can hold this off until next Thursday and maybe gather some more information?
Sure thing.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to withdraw the motion to direct Ms. Young on the sign, and we'll bring it up at our next meeting. And Shirley, if you would withdraw your second, and we'll be, okay. So that's the sign. Bow Street, I wanted to bring this up if we were going to be trying to have students here on September 8th. There were concerns about using the west end of Bow Street as a main entrance and driving around and coming into the property. I was going to ask how the board wanted to handle it and suggest that we ask Mr. Wells to contact the town about working with the town road agent, just to address any potential issues and possibilities. But I feel that at this point, we don't need to rush on that, and we can perhaps wait until we have a superintendent in place and pursue those concerns if we're preparing to be back in person. So, does the board have any other ideas about that, or are we okay with, I guess, tabling that conversation for now as part of a potential longer reopening conversation?
Yeah, I would table it for now, but I would direct this to the SAU office
Yes.
to reach out to the town.
Yeah.
Okay.
My intent with asking you was because if we were going to have kids here in 3 weeks and we didn't have a sitting superintendent yet, we just had to move. But I do feel that going through our superintendent when we have one, and we should have one within a few days, going through our sitting superintendent is definitely the appropriate channel. So, okay. So that was that. Is there anything under other? I put that there in case other things came up in the meantime, but with such a fluid situation, I don't have any there. I just put it as a placeholder. Okay. I think we still have our future agenda items will be a discussion of remote learning, most likely. And we'll have other things that we'll be putting on the agenda from what we discussed before. Last Thursday. I mean, if anybody else has any other agenda items, please get them to me by Thursday so that I can share them with the SAU and prepare our agenda. We'll meet again on Thursday, August 30th as a regular board meeting. We'll meet on September 3rd as a regular board meeting. We'll meet on September 10th as a joint board meeting. As of now, those are all still remote. That has not been determined for September 10th, but it's to be determined. And then we have a regular board meeting on September 17th. This time, is there any members of the public who would like to make a closing public comment?
Sir, can you turn the mic on?
I think we can hear you. I think the microphone is primarily for the live stream.
Yes, it is.
Chris Berry, so we made a biased decision on remote. Strictly remote, so kids are gonna lose all applications having an IT. Half the kids that you were saying to do remote, can't do remote. Like, what about the families that have two working families, two parents in the family work? Which kid is gonna suffer? Which house is gonna suffer? Who's gonna lose homes because you have to have full remote? What that? Like, are we, what the hell's going on? You guys came up with a decision, you know how many kids are coming here? You made a decision on what facts? I'm asking what facts? You know, like, I know, but I'm gonna repeat it, what facts? You know, there's 400 kids in school. 200 coming, 150? Like, you can base it on your decision on how many kids would have be attend school. K through 8. There's only 6 in this one, 10 in that one, 5 in that one. You can open school up and have school going on. You want to be remote? Fine, be remote. A lot of families need their kids in school, or else they're being denied their education, to be held back. And who's accountable? You. So deny them their education, make them stay back, lose everything they can because of what?
Thank you.
Northwood, I guess I'm a little frustrated with the decision because I specifically asked what this meeting was about, and a graph was shown on Facebook that said 46% or more wanted on-site learning. You had made the decision for hybrid. People were frustrated with it, but they just wanted more information about it. And then we get here expecting more information on numbers, including the data that was supposed to be shared, what the teachers input, and the exact numbers. And we went into private session, came back, and the decision was made. I feel like that was completely like blindsiding the public and taking advantage of your platform and position. I know this is an easy decision, but as a resident and taxpayer, I'm so frustrated right now at the decision you guys made. On another note, I also run the end housing program. No one has had eyes on a number of these kids since June. We service over 45 families to feed. We have no idea. How do you guys know they've been fed all summer? You know, it's just frustrating. You guys, I know there's a lot of work pieces. There's no easy spot. You need to know that it's not, okay, this is a decision now. That doesn't work. And I know it's hard to know for the reason, know that you answer, but these kids are suffering. And you're going to see a huge backward slide. I absolutely agree with change, with the emotional health. It's terrifying. Thank you.
My name is Christy Berry, Stratford Road. I've mentioned this before. We are putting our kids back on a hybrid version. Now these kids are going to be emotionally damaged further back from a full remote setting. What are the options for parents that are working all day long? Is there going to be an after hours VLAC? How about these kids that can't get the education that they could all day long? What happens to them? Now, I'm not saying the parents aren't going to try. I'm saying you're putting us between a rock and a hard place by expecting us to be able to have my son who needs IEP attention constantly. We're working with him. It has been a hard summer. He had a hard year. He had a really hard remote. And now to tell him that he doesn't get to come back to school, my daughter doesn't get to go to kindergarten because Northwood has 7 cases of COVID. Oh my God, let's just shut school down. No, I told you last time, it has to be better. We have to have better for our kids. They are going to fail. Most of these families are not going to be able to have their children educated at the end of the night, right? We want to go home and spend time with our kids.
we don't want to sit there and fight with them all day long for us parents that aren't able to be home with them all day long. So we went from hybrid, which was at least getting them in school, and most of us fighting for our kids to be in school full time, to just, nope, sorry, don't want to deal with it. And again, when second graders and third graders are being held back and not educated going on to the next level, as they've already pretty much lost out on half a year, less than, but still, felt like forever for them. And now they're not learning. And it's not gonna work. There has to be another way. There has to be a better way. We have to do better for our children. And we just can't accept that 100% remote is gonna be good to go.
Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak to the board? In the room, I should say. Okay, and are there any, I don't know if you can see, Mr. Alfred, we have one call-in, okay? I don't know if you can see, Mr. Alfred, we have one call-in, okay?
Hello, phone number with the last two digits 82. Please state your name and your address, and please comment. Hello, phone number with the last two digits 82. Please state your name and your address, and please comment. Hello, phone number with the last two digits 8.
So there's a, it sounds like that phone is listening to the live feed, which has a 30-second delay. That'd be my guess. Can you double check and see if there's anyone on there that could make a comment?
Yep, hold on.
It sounds like that phone is listening to the live feed, which has a 30-second delay. That'd be my guess. Can you double check and see if there's anyone on there that could make a comment?
Yep, hold on.
We can call.
That phone is listening to the live feed. Okay. Okay. Last call from people in the room. Would any board member like to address the board at this time? Okay, I'm going to close public comment. We do not need another non-public, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, there's Shane and Stephanie. Shirley?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
And Brian is a yes. So we are adjourned at 8:29. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Just because it's.
Yeah.